Today I will be teaching about the topic speech defect and speech therapy. This topic is for BSc third years and this is from the first unit. So let us see what is the definition of speech therapy and speech defect. So let us see first with speech defect. It is a type of communication disorder, where people will not be able to speak properly. ठीक है, proper speech नहीं हो रहा है, मतलब there is no proper communication also. So that's why it is a type of communication disorder where normal speech is disrupted, where normal speech is cut off. Someone who is unable to speak due to a speech disorder is considered as mute. So people who are not able to talk properly, okay, या कोई भी आदमी है जो who is not able to speak properly, मतलब it is slurring speech or stammers, or there are grammar errors. So all these are considered, and they are considered as speech defect. And a person who is not able to speak, not even a single word, then we can call that person as mute. Okay. Next, what is speech therapy? Okay, so it is a rehabilitative procedure which is undertaken in order to help people with such communication defect. Okay, people who are not able to speak properly, they have stammer, or they are their grammar is wrong, or they are repeating the same word again and again. So such people have speech defect, and this therapy is the procedure which helps the people to talk properly or to communicate properly. So it helps to the people having any kind of communication disorder or problems, and they have some swallowing problems. Okay, so this is speech therapy. This is the definition of speech defect and speech therapy. Let's move on to the next slide. So the incidence was higher in males. It is more in males than in females. And delayed speech was the commonest abnormality. It is the most common abnormality, and it was present in 47.8%, defective articulation in 21.6%, stuttering in 15.6%, multiple speech defect in 10.8%, rhinolalia in 2.1%, and aphasia in 1.9% of the cases. So this is the incidence or the rate of incidence. Now coming to the causes. Okay, so why people are not able to talk properly? Some are because of the specific reason is not known. Okay, the specific cause is not known, but there can be other reasons why people are not able to speak properly. First is because of the disorders in the neurological system. Okay, the CNS system is disrupted, or if there's any problem or any disease condition of the brain or spinal cord, then that is considered as neurological disorder. This can cause speech defect. Next, if there's any injury to the brain or any trauma to the brain, then that also is one of the causes. Next, vocal cord damage. Okay, any damage to the larynx, which is the also known as the vocal cord or vocal box. Okay, or any paralysis, loss of sensation, loss of function of the vocal cords, or if there's any nodules present in the vocal cords of the larynx, then that can also cause speech defect. Next, respiratory muscle weakness. Then strokes and cleft lip and palate. So cleft lip and palate is basically a genetic disorder. Okay, so these are some deformity of the mouth, where the lip, there's a problem with the lip and the upper palate and the lower palate of the mouth. Next, there are types of speech defect. One is aphasia. Aphasia is classified to two types, fluent and non-fluent. Then the second type is dysarthria. Third type is dysphonia, and fourth is others. Others like cluttering, stammering, prosody, apraxia, scanning, staccato. Okay, so these are some of the types of speech defects. So let us deal with each type in detail. So let's go to the next slide. So first is the aphasia. Aphasia is the acquired impairment in the use of language due to any damage to any parts of the brain which affects the production or comprehension speech and the ability to read and write. So aphasia is basically it is a speech defect where people are not able to read. Okay, they're not able to read or write properly, and they have a comprehension speech defect also. Okay, they're able to comprehend, to make a comprehension, or not able to form a sentences or any line of sentence or a paragraph. So these such people are considered as aphasia. Okay, so this is because of if there's any injury or trauma to the certain parts of the brain. So that is called aphasia. It has two types, fluent and non-fluent. Okay, so let us see first with the fluent. Fluent aphasia, the inability to understand the language of others, meaning I'm not able to understand what the other person is saying, what language he or she is talking, and it produces the less meaningful speech than normal. So people are not able to speak properly because they do not understand the language, or they do not understand what are the words coming out from the other person, the second person. Then they are not able to communicate back also. Okay, so it produces less meaningful speech, and जो भी बात करे वो meaningful नहीं है. It is not meaningful at all. It's just some random words that are coming out from the mouth. So that is fluent aphasia. So there are many types of fluent aphasia. One is Wernicke's. Second is transcortical sensory aphasia. Third, conduction or associative aphasia, and amnesic aphasia. So first type is Wernicke's aphasia. It's a person having difficulty in or inability to understand the other speech. Okay, so like I said, they are not able to understand what the other person is saying. Produces meaningful speech. Okay, so random words are coming out from their mouth. It has no meaningful, and they are unable to repeat the words. So एक ही बार बोलते हैं, they are not able to repeat the words again. Okay, so that is Wernicke's aphasia. It is produced by damage to the Wernicke's areas of the brain. Any damage to the Wernicke's area of the brain, this is called Wernicke's aphasia. Second type is transcortical sensory aphasia. It is similar to Wernicke's aphasia, लेकिन इसमें क्या होता है कि repetition is still intact, means they are able to repeat the words again, or they are able to repeat the sentence again. Okay, but that sentence has no meaning. It is not meaningful at all. Okay, and they are not able to understand the speech of the other person. Third type is conduction or associative dysphasia. It is characterized by intact auditory comprehension, meaning that they are able to hear also. Fluent speech production. Okay, there is some fluent speech, but there is poor speech repetition. So they are not able to repeat the words again or the sentence again, and they are having difficulty in repeating something someone has just told. Okay, suppose I say I had bread in breakfast today. Okay, so if I tell the other person to repeat what I just said, so the other person will not able to repeat. Okay, will not able to say the exact words what I had just said. So that is conduction or associative aphasia. Next, the fourth type of fluent aphasia is amnesic aphasia. Amnesic aphasia means the individual has word retrieval failure and cannot express the word they want to say. Okay, so they have some words in their head they want to say or they want to express, लेकिन वो express नहीं करता. They do not know how to say. Okay, and they are not able to express also. They cannot express the words that they want to say. So that is amnesic aphasia. So these are some of the types of fluent aphasia. Next, the types of non-fluent aphasia. So let us see what is non-fluent aphasia. It is difficulty in producing the fluent, articulated or self-initiated speech. So they are not able to make a sentence. Okay, they are able to make a sentence in a fluent manner. So that is called non-fluent aphasia. So the types are Broca's aphasia, transcortical motor aphasia, and global aphasia. In Broca's aphasia, it is a first type. Here, the patient would have difficulty in producing grammar sentence. Okay, so proper grammar, it is not coming out. For example, like Mary gives John balloons. Okay, so there is a grammar error. Okay, so and their speech is limited to short. Okay, so they have only a short speech. Okay, first in Broca's aphasia is that patient will have difficulty in producing grammatical sentence. Next, their speech is limited or their speech is very short. Then third is producing the right sound or finding the right words. It's a laborious process, meaning that they have difficult in finding the right words. What word they have to use, what words they have to say the next sentence, so that is having difficulty. So such patients are considered as Broca's aphasia. Okay. Next, transcortical motor aphasia. Repetition ability is intact, meaning that they are able to repeat the words. It is related to impaired verbal output. People with this aphasia does not speak unless they are encouraged or strongly encouraged to do so, and when they speak, it is labored and non-fluent. So, in transcortical motor aphasia means that they do not speak. Okay, they do not want to speak also, and they are not able to speak also. But until and unless someone forces, okay, if I force you to speak, okay, then that person will speak or will say a few words. Or if I do not force the person to speak, he or she will not speak or will not say a word or will not express any word. And if they speak also, okay, if I force them to speak and if they speak, then it is labored, meaning that they have difficulty in producing the words. कि मुश्किल से वो word भी निकल रहे उनकी मुंह से. So that is transcortical motor aphasia. Third type is global aphasia. It is characterized by severe depression of all language function. Okay, so that is non-fluent. Okay, their words are non-fluent. Okay, they'll be like may, we, give, John. So it is not fluent. Then naming, they are not able to name properly also. There is no repetition. Okay, not able to repeat the words. There is no comprehension also. So these are all impaired. So this is called global aphasia. So these are the three types of non-fluent aphasia. Now coming to the second type of speech defect. So we have learned about aphasia. Okay, so aphasia has two types, fluent and non-fluent aphasia. Next, coming to the second type is dysarthria. It is characterized by slurred speech or slow speech, and that can be difficult to understand due to the defect in articulation. So dysarthria means that patient is speaking very slow or slurred speech. Okay, so you can imagine in a very slow motion they are speaking. Okay, or the words are coming in very slow motion. Then such patients are having dysarthria. So there are many types. One is flaccid and the other is spastic. Flaccid, it results from damage to the peripheral nervous system. Okay, depending upon the nerve, which nerve is damaged, it affects the respiration also, the phonation, the resonance and the articulation. It causes muscle weakness, low muscle tone and diminished reflex. So these are some of the you can say the clinical manifestations of patients suffering from flaccid dysarthria. Okay, so second type is spastic. It causes excess tone and limited range in muscle movement. In this, the speech is labored and words may be prolonged. Okay, so this is called spastic. So there are two types of dysarthria. One is flaccid and the other is spastic. Next, third type is dysphonia. Dysphonia is known as hoarse voice. Okay, it refers to the inability to produce a voice. So this is called dysphonia. Dysphonia is also known as hoarse voice. Next, the last type is others, like cluttering. Cluttering is a rapid rate of speech which makes the speech difficult to understand. So cluttering means that they are talking very fast. We do not understand, like that. Okay, so we do not understand what they are saying. So that is called cluttering. It is also known as tachyphemia or tachyprasia. Okay, so that is tachy means fast, right? So cluttering is fast speech. Okay, there are people who talk very, very fast and we do not understand what they are saying. So that is called cluttering or tachyphenia or tachyprasia. Next type is stammering or stuttering. Stammering, we all know stammering when we are nervous. Okay, when we are nervous or when we have to speak in this, to say a few words in the stage, or we have to, say something in front of a whole group or a big group, then we have stammer. Okay, there is some stammering because of nervousness. So stammer is like, yeah, yes. So, in this flow of speech is disrupted. So there is no flow of speech. Okay, बीच में, there is stammering. There is a pause between the words. So here the flow of speech, there is no proper flow of speech in this stammering. So the flow of speech is disrupted by involuntary repetition and prolongation of sound, as well as the involuntary silent pause in which the person is unable to produce the sound. So stammering, for example, I'll say like this. My name is, I study. So that is called stammering or stuttering. So the next third type is dysprosody. It refers to the loss of normal regulation or melody of speech. So there is no melody of speech. Okay, so that is called dysprosody. Fourth type is apraxia. Apraxia involves inconsistent production of speech words and rearrangement of sound in a word. For example, potato. Okay, the person, instead of saying potato, they will say topato or totapo. So their words are mixing up. Okay, so they are rearranged. The words are rearranged. So that is called apraxia. Next, scanning of speech. Okay, it is a type of ataxia or dysarthria. It involves incoordination of tongue. In this, the syllables of words are separated by pause. So this is called scanning of speech. Next type is staccato speech. It is due to incoordination of larynx muscles of articulation. In each syllable, it is uttered separately. So, for example, let's say example, okay, or I would say I had breakfast today in the morning. So this kind of speech is called staccato speech. There is, in each syllable, it is uttered separately. There is a pause or there is a gap between each syllable of the word. So those are the types of speech defects. Okay. So there are how many types? There are four types. One is aphasia, dysarthria, dysphonia, and others. Others like cluttering, stammering, dysprosody, apraxia, scanning, and staccato. So these are some of the types of speech defects. Now coming to the diagnostic test or diagnostic evaluation. So history taking is very important. Physical examination, head, neck, and larynx examination. Laryngoscopy, it is an examination to look at the back of the throat. We will check the lungs, check the larynx and vocal cords with the help of a scope which is called laryngoscope. Next, mirror examination. Okay, it is used for visualizing the interior of the larynx by using a mirror. Okay, so especially we will check for the vocal cord. So this is a mirror examination. Next test is videostroboscopy. So it provides a magnified view of the larynx and it stimulates slow motion vibration of the vocal cord. Not only we are able to see the larynx, okay, but this equipment or this instrument will provide slow motion vibration of the vocal cords to check whether the vocal cords are functioning properly or not. So this is called videostroboscopy. Next test is called laryngeal electromyography. It is the electrical activity of the laryngeal muscles. Okay, to check the whether the laryngeal muscles are active or whether there's any electrical activity in it. So we will use this method, okay, or this test, laryngeal electromyography. So the other tests are voice lab functioning test. Okay, we will check by making a video recording to check their speech, okay, whether they're having any stammering or stuttering or any type of these speech defects. Next, we will check for test for reflex and other tests like X-ray, CT scan, and MRI. So these are some of the diagnostic tests we will perform for patient with speech defects. Next, coming to the management, okay, it can be done by correcting the organic condition and psychotherapy. So if there's any brain injury or if there's any brain infection or trauma, then we have to manage those first so as to prevent any speech defect. Place the patient in special education program, those who suffer from speech impairment. So a special education program, okay, special school for such patients are there, okay, and we should encourage the parents to send their children to such special schools. Speech therapy. So many of these orders can be treated by speech therapy. It is given by speech therapist, the person who teaches the patient how to speak and all that is called speech therapist. So they are professionally educated in the study of human communication, its development and disorder. So these special speech therapists, they are well aware of the types of speech defects, okay, how is it being developed and what are the different disorders. It assesses the speech. Okay, what do they do? Okay, what are the function of speech therapists? They assess the speech, the language, the communication problems. They will check also the swallowing problems and they will try to manage these disorders. They will try to manage the defects. Then next is remediation. It means reserving or stopping to become severe. Okay, to prevent the patient from getting from becoming mute or not able to speak completely, then this remediation is necessary. So in this, the therapist will work with the patient one-on-one. Okay, personally one-on-one, they will communicate with the patient, or in a small group or directly in a classroom to overcome the difficulties. Therapists use a variety of strategies which include language intervention activities. So here the therapist, okay, they will try to talk with the patient. They will use pictures or they will use books, okay, or any object, ongoing events to stimulate the language development. So they will use pictures. What is this? Okay, they will ask, what is this? What picture? What is this picture all about? So they can ask like this, or they can take a book and tell the patient to read this line or read this sentence or read this paragraph. Okay, so like that also these are some activities. The therapist may also correct the pronunciation. किसी चीज की मतलब any sentence, if there's any pronunciation or any grammar effect or not able to say the sentence in a fluent manner or fluent speech, then the therapist will correct the patient then and there, and they will use the repetition exercise to build up the speech and language skills. So they will tell the patient to repeat the words, okay, so that they will improve their language skills. Next therapy is the articulation therapy. Articulation or sound production exercise involves having the therapist to correct sound and treble for the patient. So there are some exercises so that the patient will be able to speak properly. The therapy will physically show the patient how to make certain words such as certain sounds or words such as the R sound. Okay, how to make the R sound, how to make the T sound, okay, or the S sounds, okay, such specific sounds of any alphabet. So by doing such exercise, they will help in the sound production, and they will also demonstrate how to move the tongue to produce some specific words. So how to produce the R, okay, by showing the tongue movement. That is these are some of the exercise, okay, in articulation therapy. So these are some of the therapies that the speech therapist will perform, okay. Now coming to the nursing diagnosis. First is the impaired verbal communication related to impaired function of the muscle as evidenced by the impairment in speech. So this is the first nursing diagnosis. The goals are to improve the verbal communication. Nursing interventions are as follows. We have to assess the patient for impaired verbal communication. Next, maintain a patient calm approach. We have to provide calm to the patient, listen attentively, listen properly to the patient, and allow time for communication. Maintain a calm environment so that the patient or client can concentrate on communication efforts and doesn't speak loudly and able to hear the others clearly. Next, nursing diagnosis is impaired social interaction related to trouble speaking as evidenced by observation. The goal is to minimize the disruption of social interaction. So the intervention are we have to help the patient to identify their inner strength. Then give knowledge to people nearby about the speech impairments. Okay, how to use the we have to give knowledge. Okay, to the parents also we have to provide them knowledge about the speech defects. Encourage the patient to talk or communicate with the other person. Encourage the patient to maintain contact with friends. Give positive reinforcement on the results or to be achieved by the patient. So these are some of the nursing diagnoses that you can apply for speech defects. Okay, so we have come to the end of the topic for today. I hope you've understood what speech defects are, what are the types of speech defects, and about the speech therapy. So thank you, class.